personal story. And one thing that really stood out to me was that he told me that he used to be gay, because sometimes when you meet people abroad, like, they expect that you want to party and sleep around a lot, and I kind of got in this cycle of like feeling like I needed to travel and post it on social media a lot. So hi, I'm Lindsey, and in today's video I want to share with you how I went from being kind of like a low-key, not too serious, not really practicing Christian to really a really strong Christian, a really strong believer. So in this video I'm going to share that story as quick as I possibly can, just so you can learn a little bit more about me and where where the foundation of this channel is coming from. So to tell you a little bit about me, I was born and raised in Nashville, Tennessee, in the middle of the Bible Belt, and I went to church all the time with my family growing up. We always went to church, but I could say I was never super excited to go to church, and I never really had like close friends there. I didn't really feel like I understood the Bible that well. And even through college, I went to a Christian university, and it was just kind of like my parents wanted me to go there, so I went there. But I really didn't understand exactly really what I believed beyond like Jesus and God, and I knew that I should read the Bible and go to church, but I really didn't do it because I wanted to. I just did it because it was part of the culture that I grew up in. I would say though, even though I wasn't like super involved in church, I definitely felt like I believed in God and Jesus, and I didn't really rebel in my life. Like, I wasn't like a party animal or sleeping around or doing anything crazy, but I also wasn't like super, pious Christian that was really just like every day reading the Bible. And even though I went to a Christian university, I just didn't really have an excitement for Christianity or the word. And whenever I saw people at church sharing their testimony and like getting baptized and becoming a Christian later in life, like, after childhood, I was like, man, like, what are they so excited about? Like, what's the big deal? It's like church. It's like, it's just normal for me. I didn't think of it as something special. So after I graduated college from a private Christian college that I went to in Nashville, I moved to Spain to teach English. And even though I moved to Spain, I realized in Spain, like, most everyone is Catholic, or there's a lot of Catholic churches. And I remember going into these Catholic churches just like on a tour, and I remember seeing like Mary at the front of the church and like Jesus kind of in the back. And I was like, that's weird. I didn't really understand a lot about Catholicism. And while I was in Spain, I decided to read the Bible all the way through, just because I felt like I should read it. But while I was living there, like, I did go to church, but I didn't really understand because my Spanish wasn't that good. But I didn't really feel like I got strong in my faith there. Most of my friends weren't Christians or believers, or they didn't tell me that. I had one Christian friend who invited me to church, but besides that, like, I really didn't grow spiritually while I was in Spain. But there were situations where I felt like God was really protecting me while I was in Spain. Like, I pretty much stayed out of trouble, but for the most part, like, I have to walk everywhere, and a lot of times I'm meeting new people, and I really don't know if those people are good people or what kind of people they are. And I remember one of my Spanish friends, she told me that she didn't really know I was Christian, and I didn't really tell people. I was kind of like the undercover Christian and at that time. I remember her telling me that, yeah, in Spain, like, it's really normal spend the night together on your first date. And I was like, whoa. Like, I went to like a private Christian college, but I really didn't date that much. Like, maybe had one boyfriend, but so I wasn't like really that kind of person necessarily. And I remember when she told me that, I was like, well, I'm definitely not dating anybody in Spain. Just because like that's not what I wanted to do. And even though I wasn't a really strong Christian, like deep down, like, I knew that that's not the type of person I was, and I wasn't comfortable with that, and that's not what I believed in. I didn't grow spiritually, like I said, and after that I decided to move back to the United States and pursue a master's degree. But one thing, after like living abroad for a while, and I traveled a lot when I was abroad, I kind of got in this cycle of like feeling like I needed to travel and post it on social media a lot and like prove that I was just like, and this is even before Instagram, I just proved that I was like cool, and I kind of got into that routine where all my friends were like traveling or in the Peace Corps or just doing something like more than just staying in their hometown. So I kind of felt like to have purpose, I needed to be traveling all the time. So after I moved back to the US, I finished my master's. I moved to Florida for a little while, and at the end of 2012, right after Christmas, I had decided to move to Mexico. My parents weren't really super happy about this because at this time Mexico had a lot of drug issues. I mean, they do now, but back then I think it was worse. I think it's a lot better now. But I just kind of decided to go on a whim to teach English in Mexico because I saw a friend teaching English there, and I thought, okay, this would be a good idea. And I had this like boyfriend in Florida that I really didn't like, or I didn't really know how to get like to break it off with him, because I would try and break it off and then he'd like try and come back, and I thought, well, I'll just go to Mexico and just like teach English there and just like try something new. So in January 2013, I went to Mexico and I started teaching English at this language school. But one thing that surprised me that I didn't know about was that I actually had to teach in these companies that were far, like outside the school, like 45 minutes to an hour and a half away, taking sometimes 2 different buses or taxis and a bus and all that. And it was like early in the morning and late at night, or like in the evening. It was really like a long day, and sometimes it was 6 days a week. So it was a lot of work and much more demanding than when I was teaching in Spain. And a lot of times I'd be out there riding this bus into the desert, into like some industrial park, and I'd be like thinking, God, like, how did I get here? Like, is this what I really want to do? Is this really what I should be doing? Or do you have something else for me? Like, I never really had a moment to slow down and really meditate on my direction I was going. I just had an idea and I would just do it. But when I was riding on that bus in the middle of Mexico in the desert, I like started really second guessing, was I doing the right thing? And I think for the first time in a long time, I really started feeling lonely. Like, it was really hard for me to make friends. In Mexico, I lived in a hotel. There were some other people in the hotel that I knew. But besides like kind of making friends, like even girlfriends, it was kind of hard. And the one girl I knew a girl who was a teacher. That's why I went to the school in Mexico. Like, she kind of stopped talking to me. She got this boyfriend and they were always together. So I was kind of like, man, I don't know if this is gonna work out. Like, I was really starting to question everything, like even if I should have gone to Mexico. But one silver lining of this job in Mexico was that I met this guy, and at my school he was another teacher, another American teacher, and we became friends. Like, I don't really know how we talked about this, but he ended up telling me he was like a Christian. And if you ever travel abroad or live abroad, sometimes it's hard to meet other Christians abroad. And so we kind of connected or bonded over that. Even though I wouldn't consider myself a strong Christian, I was like, oh, I don't have to tell him I don't want to drink all the time, or I don't want to smoke. I don't have to explain myself because, you know, he was another believer. So it kind of made our friendship a little bit easier. Because sometimes when you meet people abroad, like, they expect that you want to party and sleep around a lot and just like backpack everywhere. And that's not really how I do life abroad. Like, I like to just live like a local and, like, you know, keep it simple and that sort of thing. So he was the same way. So we enjoyed hanging out a lot. So one day we were talking and he was telling me a little bit more about his personal story about how he became a strong Christian. And one thing that really stood out to me was that he told me that he used to be gay. And I was like, whoa, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't even know like that was possible. And this was back in 2013, before, you know, people really didn't talk about this sort of thing. So it really took me by surprise. And basically what he told me was that, like, he was struggling with this through, I would say, high school and college. And deep down in his heart, like, he told me that he knew it was wrong. Like, he shouldn't be living that kind of lifestyle. And I was like, oh, really? Like, I didn't know people thought about that. And he was like, really became close to the Lord and just asked God to set him free from that lifestyle. And he told me that he did. And that he was just felt like it was just a whole nother life for him. Like, it's just a whole nother freedom. And he seemed super excited. And I was like, wow, this guy, you know, he's only 22 or 23. And I remember him saying he wanted to be the hands and feet of Jesus. And I was like, wow, like, this guy's serious. I've never heard any young person like talk about Jesus like him. So just seeing his excitement for the Lord, I was like, okay, this guy is like really genuine and he has a close relation with God, closer than anyone I've met my age. And I was like, wow, this really impressed me. And I think at that time, he prayed for me, and I remember like, wow, this is an amazing prayer. And I just remember like after that prayer, like I really I really felt like God was like saying to me, hey Lindsey, I see you. I didn't forget you. Like, I know you're out there. I've got my eye on you, and I have a plan for you and a direction for you. You don't have to feel like you're alone out there trying to figure this all out on your own. And I was like, wow. I remember he played this song. It was Our God by Chris Tomlin. And I was like, wow, that song, it's so powerful. And I never listened to Christian music. You know, my mom tried to give me a WoW CD growing up, and I was like, I don't want to listen to that. When he played that song, Our God, I was like, wow. And then I just started listening to that song on my way to work, on the bus in the morning. And then there was another Hillsong song at that time. I think it was Stand and Inside Out. Those two, I think, that I was just like, whoa, this is amazing. Like, these songs really touched my heart. Like, really started to plant seeds in my heart that, you know, God loves me and he hasn't forgotten about me. Because at that time I was 28 and I was single, and I felt like kind of forgotten about a little bit, or like, man, most everyone gets married right out of college, and then after that, you know, it's hard. And I thought at that time at 28 when I was single that I was like, you know, like, it was not that it was too late, but just, I don't know, maybe not special or something like that. And I just remember in this moment I really felt like God was saying, no Lindsey, I've got my eye on you, and I have a, you know, a plan for you. And I'm going to show you that plan, or push you in that direction. So every day when I was going to work, I was listening to that music, and I was listening into it at where I lived in the hotel, and I was just like, wow, like, I felt like the Lord was working on me, and I didn't really know what was going on. I didn't go to church at all in Mexico, but I felt in my heart, like, all of a sudden, this really huge desire to go back to Florida and to start going to church as an adult, because I really didn't go. I went sometimes just out of, like, you know, this is what I should be doing, but not really because I wanted to or looked forward to it. So a month or two later, I left Mexico. I flew back to Florida, and I did ask my ex-boyfriend. I was like, hey, I would like to go to church. Do you know, like, a church I should go to? And he was like, well, I don't really go to church, but if you want to go, like, I know this church that is really good. I was like, okay. And meanwhile, I was talking to my best friend. I was like, hey, do you know what church I should go to? And she was like, yeah, I know. You should go to this church. And it actually turned out to be the same church. And this ex guy, like, and my best friend, like, didn't really know each other, never talked to each other. So I was like, all right, these people both recommended, like, I should definitely probably go. So that ex, he ended up, like, moving away, so I didn't really, like, have any communications with him too much after that. But he did take me to the church one time, and after that it kept on going I remember going over 9 months, and I would just go and sit there, and they had a really powerful, like, worship, and I would just, like, cry sometimes, like, oh God, like, I've been missing out on you all this time, and I thought that I knew what going to church was all about, but I really had no idea. And it was such an amazing experience. And, like, things just started changing. I just started getting so excited about reading the Bible. I got to start reading. I'm like, wow, I cannot believe that's in the Bible. I may not believe it because it's in the Bible, but, like, I was getting, like, all these revelations, and that really started me on a direction of really becoming a strong Christian. And this kind of church was way different than the church I grew up in. It was definitely, it's a spirit-filled church, which I guess is a church that believes, like, in prophetic words and speaking in tongues, and just, like, really takes the word, all the word as truth, and that those things didn't pass away. A lot of denominational churches don't believe in those things, so I never learned about them growing up. I didn't really learn, like, what the Holy Spirit's role was and all that sort of thing. And I know these days that is, a lot of people have different opinions on that. But I have my own experience, and I can say that church experience was amazing. I did meet a lot of weird people, and you really have to dig in the word to find the truth. But it really pushed me to get closer to God, and to really study the word and find the truth for myself. So that happened in May 2013 when I started going to church. And after that, 2014 and 2015, I went to Awakening Europe, which was a big conference in Europe, just kind of trying to bring revival to Europe, which I realized really needs it, because when I was living in Spain, like, there was hardly any young people going to church. And I could realize then that people really needed a spiritual awakening. So I did that in 2015, and because I love to travel. And then, you know, over the last, I would guess, 7-8 years, like, other things have happened that have also increased my faith, and I will share more on this channel. But that's really where my faith changed and grew stronger, and it just continues to keep growing. So I'm going to be sharing that on this channel, so please subscribe so you don't miss out on these future videos. And the whole point is really to encourage you in your faith, and also to encourage you to share your story on YouTube as well, or share with other people. Like, don't be afraid to share what God has done in your life. So if you found encouragement in this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please share with a friend who would also might encourage as well. Leave me a comment. Let me know where you're watching from. And if you have any questions, let me know. I'm always happy to help. Please check out more videos on this channel. I'm growing this channel and want to share lots of things with you. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.